Right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into the world of power dynamics
Ooh, power dynamics.
with Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
Yes.
This book, it's really interesting. It's kind of like
It's a fascinating book.
it's kind of like a collection of all these historical stories and philosophical observations about how people gain and maintain power.
Right.
It's kind of like Machiavelli meets Sun Tzu with a little dash of, I don't know.
Yeah, and a little bit of cunning strategy in
A
that.
little bit of strategy.
Definitely.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about emperors, con artists,
All sorts of folk.
all sorts of people in between.
Yeah.
Showing us kind of the different paths to influence and authority.
Yeah, and it's not just about reading history like a storybook. It's about understanding how people behave.
Yeah.
Those patterns that have stayed pretty consistent over time.
Right.
So these laws, as Greene calls them, they're kind of like a decoder ring for the social games we all play every day, whether we realize it or not.
Right. And so our mission today is to kind of sift through these 48 laws and I think pull out some of the most intriguing ones.
Yeah.
And the ones that I think are really going to kind of shift your perspective on how the world works.
Yeah, and we're not going to sugarcoat it.
No.
Some of these laws are a little eyebrow-raising.
Definitely.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
We want to understand them so you can recognize them.
Yes.
Both in others and maybe even in yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So let's kick things off with Law 6.
Okay.
Court attention at all costs.
Right.
And Greene argues that this idea of standing out, of being memorable, is absolutely essential for gaining power.
It's essential.
And he tells the story of Count Lustig.
Oh, Count Lustig.
Yeah.
What a character.
He was a con man.
Yeah, notorious con man.
And he cultivated this air of mystery.
Like a finely tailored suit. He just had this presence about him.
And he really understood, like instinctively, I think, the power of perception.
Yeah.
And so he would craft this image that was
more intriguing.
Yeah, more intriguing than the average person.
Than the average Joe.
And people would be magnetized to him.
Drawn in.
Yeah. And that made them more vulnerable to his schemes.
Right, because he was different.
Yeah. So it's not just about like being flashy or loud or anything like that. No, nuanced.
It's nuanced.
Yeah, it's really, he's digging into the psychology of attention here.
Mm-hmm.
We're all wired to notice the unusual.
The things that break the pattern.
The things that break the pattern.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, what makes you stop scrolling?
On social media.
On social media, right? It's the unexpected.
It's that thing that breaks through the noise.
Right.
That's what catches our eye.
So, as individuals striving for success, how do we stand out in a way that's effective and ethical?
Right, because there's a fine line between captivating an audience and manipulating them.
Oh, definitely.
Right.
It's like walking a tightrope, isn't it?
It is a delicate balance.
So let's jump into Law 7.
Law 7.
Get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and Greene uses the example of Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's kind of
it's a little cutthroat.
It is a little cutthroat.
But even in the world of invention, things can get pretty intense.
So Edison was brilliant.
Oh, absolutely brilliant.
But he was also known for capitalizing on the work of his assistants.
Including Tesla.
Whose
contributions were really revolutionary.
Mm-hmm. And the book really dives into this dynamic of
harnessing other people's talent.
Yeah.
And using their output for personal gain.
It really makes you think about
the ethics of it all.
Yeah, the ethical implications.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like a shortcut to success in a way.
It is, but Greene also highlights the danger.
Yeah.
That you become so reliant on others.
Right.
That you lose your own edge.
Yeah, you lose your own ability.
Your skills get rusty if you're always outsourcing the hard work.
Right.
The problem solving.
Those are the muscles that you need.
Exactly like a muscle you never exercise.
Yeah.
It weakens.
Well, real power, the kind that lasts, comes from that balance.
Of delegation.
Yeah.
And personal expertise.
Yeah, you got to keep your own skills sharp.
You got to.
Let's shift gears to Law 12.
Law 12.
Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim.
Okay, this is a good one.
This one feels so relevant.
Oh, it's so relevant.
In today's world.
Especially today.
Where we're just flooded with information.
And it's hard to know who to trust.
It's hard to know who to trust.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, it's a fascinating tactic, and Greene uses the example of P.T. Barnum.
Oh, P.T. Barnum.
The master showman.
Yes.
And he understood how to play on people's desire to be entertained even if it meant being tricked a little bit.
Right.
And so he would often be upfront about some of his smaller deceptions.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, to create an illusion of honesty,
Right.
which made people more susceptible to his bigger schemes.
So it's like the magician revealing a small trick.
Right.
To distract you from the bigger illusion.
Exactly.
It's brilliant, but also kind of devious.
A little bit.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, how often do we fall for this?
In everyday life.
Without realizing it.
Oh, all the time.
All the time.
Think about advertising, marketing, even personal relationships.
Oh, yeah.
This tactic is everywhere.
It really is.
The key is to develop a discerning eye.
Okay.
To question motives.
Yeah.
Especially when something seems too good to be true.
Too good to be true. All right, so get ready for this next one.
Okay, hit me.
This one's straight out of a history book.
I love it.
Law 17. Keep others in suspended terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability.
Oh, that sounds intense.
It does sound intense.
A little Machiavellian.
It does a little bit, yeah.
Like something a king would use.
To maintain control.
Exactly.
And throughout history, this has been a tactic.
Used by those in power.
Especially in warfare.
Oh, for sure.
And Greene uses the example of Stonewall Jackson.
Oh, Stonewall Jackson.
A Confederate general.
Known for keeping his enemies on edge.
On edge by being totally unpredictable.
Totally unpredictable.
But he was a master of disrupting expectations. And that would leave his opponents scrambling to react.
Instead of planning their own strategies.
Imagine trying to fight an enemy that you can't predict.
Yeah. It would be utterly unnerving.
It would be so unnerving.
Yeah.
But Greene also cautions against being too unpredictable.
Right.
Because at a certain point, you just come across as erratic and untrustworthy.
You lose credibility.
Think about it in the context of leadership.
Okay.
A leader needs to be decisive.
Decisive.
But also consistent.
Yes.
If your team never knows what to expect,
right,
how can they trust you?
How can they feel secure?
So it's a balancing act, for sure.
It is.
All right, let's dive into Law 33.
Okay.
Discover each man's thumbscrew.
Ooh, that sounds a little...
This one feels a little bit darker.
Yeah, a little darker.
A little more about using knowledge for personal gain.
Yeah, this law delves into the darker side of power dynamics.
Okay.
It's about understanding people's weaknesses.
Okay.
Their pressure points.
Right.
The things that make them vulnerable.
Yeah.
And using that knowledge strategically.
Okay, so it's not exactly the most ethical approach.
Not exactly.
But it is a fascinating concept.
It is. And to understand it, think about Lola Montez.
Lola Montez.
She was an Irish dancer.
Okay.
Who used her beauty and her charm to exploit the weaknesses of powerful men.
Oh, wow.
She rose to a position of immense influence. But at what cost?
Right.
Exploiting someone's vulnerabilities can create a ripple effect.
Oh, yeah?
Of unintended consequences.
Right.
Resentment, broken relationships, even self-destruction.
Wow.
It's a reminder that power in the wrong hands can be incredibly destructive.
Right.
It's about recognizing those tendencies in ourselves.
Yes.
And choosing to use our knowledge for good.
Yes.
Not for manipulation.
For good, not for manipulation. Okay, let's wrap up this first part.
Okay.
With a law that feels especially relevant in our get-rich-quick culture.
Oh, yeah.
Law 40, despise the free lunch.
Oh, that's a good one.
We've all been tempted by a deal.
That seems too good to be true.
Too good to be true.
Right.
Haven't we?
We all have.
And it's human nature to want the easy path.
The shortcut.
The shortcut.
The easy way.
And that's exactly what makes us vulnerable.
To those who exploit that desire.
Yeah. And Greene uses the story of these two con men.
Oh, con men. I love it.
Who created a fake diamond mine.
A fake diamond mine.
To swindle wealthy investors.
Oh, wow.
And they played on that greed.
That yearning for a quick return.
Yeah.
And it costs those investors dearly.
So it's a cautionary tale.
Absolutely.
That reminds us that there's no such thing as a free lunch.
There isn't.
Every choice, every deal, every opportunity comes with a cost.
It does, even if it's not immediately apparent.
Even if it's hidden.
Right.
And so the question is, are we willing to take the time?
To assess those hidden costs.
To assess those hidden costs.
To really look beneath the surface.
And understand what we're getting into.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the key.
It's so important.
It is. Yeah, it's like that saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Right.
Greene's not saying we should be cynical.
Right.
But to develop that healthy skepticism.
Yeah.
Especially when something seems effortless. Or comes with promises of overnight success.
Yeah. Okay.
Speaking of questioning assumptions, Law 13 flips the script on how we typically approach asking for help.
Okay.
It says, when asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, Never to their mercy or gratitude.
It's so counterintuitive.
It is, isn't it?
You'd think reminding someone of past favors.
Right, or appealing to their compassion would be the way to go.
Yeah.
But Greene argues that appealing to self-interest is far more effective.
Interesting.
He uses a historical example of Athenian and Corinthian ambassadors trying to convince the millions to form an alliance. The Corinthians focused on past favors and obligations, while the Athenians framed their proposal in terms of the millions' own survival and security.
So who do you think the millions sided with?
Well, the Athenians, of course.
The Athenians, of course.
It's a fascinating look at how appealing to someone's self-interest can be more persuasive than relying on past favors or emotional pleas.
It highlights a fundamental aspect of human nature.
It does.
We all have our own motivation.
Our own desire.
Our own desire.
So when you need help, frame your request in a way that benefits the other person.
Make it a win-win.
Exactly, make it a win-win. Think about how you can align your request with their goals.
Onto a law that feels like it's out of a spy movie.
Ooh, a spy movie.
Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy.
Interesting.
Greene argues that it's crucial for staying one step ahead, for truly understanding your rivals.
Right. This law is all about strategic intelligence gathering. Greene gives the example of Sun Tzu.
Oh, Sun Tzu.
The legendary Chinese military strategist. Who emphasized knowing your enemy as well as you know yourself.
And the book dives into this captivating story about Cesare Borgia.
Cesare Borgia.
The Duke of Valentino. Who employed spies.
To infiltrate his enemies' circles. Uncover their secrets.
Talk about cloak and dagger intrigue.
Oh, yeah. Classic spy stuff.
Right.
Borgia understood that knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Especially in the hands of someone who knows how to use it.
By knowing his opponent's weaknesses and anticipating their moves,
he could outmaneuver them.
Solidify his position.
Exactly.
This raises a big question for me.
Okay.
Where's the line between gathering information strategically and resorting to unethical spying?
It's a blurry line, isn't it?
It is a blurry line.
Especially in the digital age.
Especially in the digital age where information is so readily available.
It's a question we all have to grapple with.
We do.
Transparency and ethical boundaries are paramount, but so is the ability to gather information and make informed decisions.
It's all about finding that balance.
Finding that balance. That's the key.
Law 18. Isolation is dangerous.
Isolation.
And this feels incredibly relevant today.
It does, doesn't it?
Where we're constantly connected.
Yet we can feel so isolated.
Yeah.
Greene's argument here is that complete isolation cuts you off from vital information. Makes you vulnerable. Potentially out of touch with reality.
And he uses the example of the first emperor of China.
Qin
Shi Huangdi.
Interesting.
Who isolated himself in his palace.
Surrounded by yes men.
Surrounded by yes men, only by those who agreed with him.
Right, classic story.
It really is.
Of how surrounding yourself with yes men can lead to a distorted view of the world.
And ultimately,
it contributed to his downfall.
Real
power requires connection. A network of allies, advisors, sources of information.
Without that,
you risk becoming stagnant.
Losing your adaptability.
Exactly.
It's lonely at the top.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be. You can be at the center of things. While maintaining those vital connections.
So Law 20.
Law 20.
Do not commit to anyone.
Interesting.
It's all about preserving your autonomy.
Your freedom to act in your best interest.
And Greene uses the example of Queen Elizabeth I.
Queen Elizabeth I.
Who expertly navigated
the complexities of European politics.
By refusing to be tied down.
By any one alliance or marriage proposal.
She kept her options open.
She did. It's a power move, for sure.
It is a power move.
But how do you build trust in alliances?
How do you build trust?
If you're always playing the field.
Well,
it's about strategic maneuvering. Queen Elizabeth created the impression of being open to collaboration, while still safeguarding her independence.
It's a subtle dance.
It is a subtle dance.
But it allowed her to remain in control.
In control of her own destiny.
It makes you think about how often we rush to commit.
I do.
To align ourselves with one side or the other.
Without considering all of our options. Sometimes it's wiser to hold back. To observe the playing field and make your move when the time is right.
Law 23. This one I think we can all relate to.
Okay, let's hear it.
Concentrate your forces.
Concentrate your forces.
This one's about focus.
It is about focus.
Greene uses a military analogy,
Okay.
arguing that it's far more effective to focus your energy on a single decisive point of attack.
Rather than spreading yourself thin.
Rather than spreading yourself too thin.
Across multiple fronts.
He uses the example of the Rothschild banking family.
Oh, the Rothschilds.
Who built their empire.
By concentrating their resources on specific industries and locations.
They didn't try to do everything.
They didn't. They focused on dominating their chosen areas.
It's a principle that can apply to almost any aspect of life.
They can.
Whether you're building a business, pursuing a creative passion.
Even just managing your daily schedule.
Yeah.
Identify your priorities. Direct your energy towards those goals.
Try and do everything at once.
Leads to mediocrity.
But mastering a few key areas
can lead to excellence.
Law 24. Play the perfect courtier.
Ooh, courtier.
This one feels essential for anyone navigating.
Well, tricky social dynamics.
Social dynamics at work and social circles. Even within families.
It's all about social intelligence.
Social intelligence.
Understanding those unspoken rules.
Unspoken rules.
Navigating those power dynamics.
Yeah.
With grace and strategy.
Grace and strategy.
Greene uses the example of Baldassare Castiglione.
Oh, Baldassare Castiglione.
Author of The Book of the Courtier.
The Book of the Courtier.
Which was essentially a guidebook for aspiring courtiers.
Oh, wow.
In the Italian Renaissance.
I'm picturing those elegant gatherings.
Full of witty banter.
Witty banter.
And subtle power plays.
What were some of the key qualities that Castiglione outlined?
Well, he emphasized grace.
Grace.
Wit, intelligence, athleticism.
Okay.
And a touch of artistic flair.
Oh, nice.
But above all, he stressed the importance of never outshining the master.
Interesting.
Of blending in while still showcasing your talents.
So it's fascinating how those qualities are still relevant today.
They are, aren't they?
Even though we don't have those formal courts.
Right.
But that ability to read people.
To understand social cues.
To adjust your approach based on the situation.
Those are invaluable skills.
Invaluable skills in any social setting.
It's about being adaptable.
Adaptable.
Knowing when to assert yourself and when to step back.
When to speak up, when to listen.
Exactly.
Okay, Law 25, recreate yourself.
Recreate yourself.
This is a bold idea.
It is.
That we're not limited by the roles society tries to impose on us.
This is about taking control of your narrative, crafting the image you want to project to the world.
Self-invention.
Self-invention, exactly.
Greene uses the example of Julius Caesar.
Oh, Julius Caesar.
The master of self-presentation.
He understood the power of image, the importance of cultivating a persona.
That inspired awe.
Awe and admiration.
Caesar used everything.
From his physical appearance.
To his carefully crafted speeches.
To project an image of strength and authority.
He knew that perception shapes reality.
He did, especially when it comes to power.
It's a fascinating concept, but I can't help but wonder, isn't there a risk of losing your authenticity in the process?
Where's the line between self-invention and becoming someone you're not?
That's the challenge. The key is to find that sweet spot.
Okay.
Between crafting a compelling persona and staying true to your core values.
It's about highlighting your strengths.
Refining your presentation.
But never losing sight of who you truly are.
Exactly.
Okay, Law 26. Keep your hands clean. Keep your hands clean.
This feels like an ethical principle.
It does, but Greene also argues it's crucial for maintaining power.
Okay.
This law is all about avoiding blame.
Avoiding blame.
Even if it means using scapegoats.
Oh, scapegoats.
Or distractions to deflect attention from your own missteps.
It sounds a bit Machiavellian.
It does a little bit.
Yeah.
The book gives a fascinating example of the Chinese general Cao Cao. Who, during a crucial battle, made a tactical decision that some of his generals questioned to deflect blame and maintain his authority. He skillfully shifted the blame onto those who had voiced dissent.
So even if you made the mistake, if you can successfully shift the blame...
Or create a distraction.
You can
preserve your image.
Of competence and control.
Exactly.
This happens all the time.
It does, doesn't it?
In politics.
In business.
Even in our personal relationships.
People go to great lengths.
To protect their reputation.
Yeah. To avoid taking responsibility.
It's a reminder that we need to be discerning observers.
We do.
Look beyond the surface and try to understand the motivations.
The motivations behind people's actions.
Okay, get ready for this one.
All right, hit me.
Law 27.
Law 27.
Play on people's need to believe.
Okay.
to create a cult-like following.
Ooh, a cult-like following.
This one's a doozy.
It is a doozy.
This is about harnessing the power of belief.
It is. This law taps into something profound about human psychology.
Okay.
Greene argues that people have a deep-seated need to believe in something.
To believe.
Whether it's a cause or a leader, even a set of ideas.
And when you understand how to tap into that need,
you can build a loyal following.
Achieve extraordinary things.
You can.
He uses the example of Giuseppe Balsamo.
Giuseppe Balsamo.
Italian alchemist.
Okay.
Who reinvented himself as Count Cagliostro.
Count Cagliostro.
And amassed a cult-like following.
By promising his disciples secret knowledge.
Secret knowledge.
And mystical power.
Talk about a master of branding.
Oh, yeah. He knew what he was doing.
Right.
Cagliostro understood that people crave meaning. Purpose.
Purpose.
The sense of belonging.
Belonging.
And by creating a compelling narrative.
Right.
Offering his followers a path to transformation.
A path to transformation.
He tapped into those fundamental human desires.
It's incredible how people are drawn to those charismatic figures who offer that sense of hope or promise to fulfill their deepest desires.
Where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line?
It's a question of intent, isn't it? Are you using your understanding of human psychology to empower others or to manipulate them? That's a distinction we all have to grapple with.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So Law 28, enter action with boldness.
Enter action with boldness.
This one seems to be all about confidence.
Yeah, and making a strong first impression.
It's a strong first impression.
It's about projecting an aura of authority.
Authority.
But being someone who commands attention.
Commands attention.
Greene argues that hesitation often signals weakness.
Okay.
While a bold entrance creates a sense of momentum.
Momentum.
And inspires confidence in others.
And the book dives into the story of Giacomo Casanova.
Oh, Casanova.
The legendary Italian adventurer.
What a character.
He was a master of making a grand entrance.
He knew how to make an entrance.
Whether he was arriving in a new city or stepping into a crowded salon.
He knew how to capture people's attention.
He knew how to capture their attention.
And make a lasting impression.
So first impressions matter.
They do.
By entering with boldness, you set the tone.
You control the narrative.
It's like stepping onto a stage.
The audience is watching.
The audience is watching.
Waiting to see what you'll do next.
But isn't there a risk of coming across as arrogant?
Right, or overconfident.
Overconfident. How do you strike that balance between boldness and humility?
It's about reading the room. Understanding the social context. And adjusting your approach accordingly.
Okay.
Sometimes a grand gesture is called for. Right.
Other times, a more subtle approach is more effective.
So it's about being adaptable.
Knowing when to dial it up and when to dial it down.
Exactly.
Okay, Law 29, plan all the way to the end.
Plan all the way to the end.
This one's about having a vision.
It is about having a vision.
Thinking strategically. It's about anticipating obstacles.
Planning for contingencies.
Having that long-term perspective.
Greene uses the example of Genghis Khan.
Genghis Khan.
The great Mongol conqueror who is renowned for his meticulous planning.
He didn't just react to circumstances, he shaped them.
He did.
And he famously said, if you are not sure, wait. If you are in doubt, abstain.
Wise words.
Wise words.
It's a reminder that impulsivity can lead to costly mistakes.
Especially when the stakes are high.
Especially when the stakes are high.
Khan understood that success rarely happens by accident.
It takes careful strategizing.
Anticipating your opponent's moves.
Having a plan for every eventuality.
It's like thinking several steps ahead.
Like a chess master.
Okay, Law 34.
Law 34.
Be royal in your own fashion act. Like a king, to be treated like one.
I like that one.
This one feels like it's all about confidence and self-belief.
It's about understanding how perception shapes reality.
Perception shapes reality.
Greene argues that people will treat you the way you treat yourself. If you project confidence and authority, others will naturally defer to you.
The book uses the example of King Louis XIV of France.
The Sun King.
The Sun King.
Who cultivated an aura of majesty.
Through elaborate rituals.
Grand palace.
A carefully crafted public image.
He knew what he was doing.
He did.
Louis XIV understood the power of symbolism. Of surrounding himself with the trappings of power. By acting the part he commanded respect and obedience.
It's a reminder that how we present ourselves to the world
really does
has a profound impact on how others perceive us.
It does.
But how do you strike that balance between projecting authority and remaining approachable?
Right. You don't want to seem too aloof.
Right.
It's about finding the right balance for each situation.
Right.
In some contexts, a more formal, hierarchical approach might be necessary.
Yeah.
In other situations, a more collaborative, down-to-earth approach might be more effective.
So it's all about reading those social cues.
And adapting your style accordingly.
Okay. Law 37. Create compelling spectacles.
Create compelling spectacles.
This one seems to be about the power of imagery.
Yes, and creating those memorable experiences.
This law taps into our emotional responses.
It does.
Greene argues that grand gestures,
Dramatic events,
visual storytelling,
can have a profound impact on how people perceive you.
and your message.
And your message.
He gives the example of the Roman Emperor Augustus,
Augustus.
who used a series of elaborate public spectacles
Processions, games, architectural marvels.
to unify the Roman people.
After years of civil war.
Augustus understood that people are often swayed more by emotions than by logic.
He did.
By creating these awe-inspiring spectacles.
He appealed to people's desire for unity, stability, grandeur.
And this is a tactic that is still used today.
Oh, absolutely.
In everything from political rallies to product launches.
The social media campaigns.
It's a reminder that we live in a world of symbols and stories.
We
The way
do.
we present ourselves, the experiences we create,
Those things have power.
they have the power to shape people's perceptions.
And ultimately influence their actions.
Okay, Law 42. This one might sound a bit harsh.
Okay, let's hear it.
Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter.
Strike the shepherd.
It's about recognizing those key players,
Yeah.
influencers,
Right.
and disrupting that leadership.
Can have a cascading effect.
The book uses the example of Alexander the Great,
Alexander the Great.
who, after conquering the Persian Empire,
Right.
faced the challenge of maintaining control.
Over such a vast territory.
Instead of trying to micromanage every faction and tribe,
He focused on eliminating the leaders.
the key figures who held the most influence,
He understood that without strong leadership, resistance would crumble.
and the people would be easier to govern.
It's a bold strategy.
It is a bold strategy. But isn't there a risk of creating martyrs,
There's always that risk.
inspiring even greater resistance?
The key is to act decisively,
Okay.
eliminating the threat while offering a compelling alternative,
A vision of a better future.
a vision of a better future that people can rally around,
Okay, so it's about disrupting that existing power structure.
and filling that void with something new.
Something that inspires hope and allegiance.
Exactly.
Okay, let's wrap up this deep dive with a law that's a bit more philosophical.
Okay.
Law 48. Assume formlessness.
Assume formlessness.
It sounds almost like a Zen principle.
It does, doesn't it?
It's about adaptability, being flexible, responsive to changing circumstances.
Greene uses the metaphor of water,
Water.
which can take any shape flowing around obstacles, eventually wearing them down.
It's a powerful image.
It is.
Water is formless, yet it's incredibly forceful.
It can carve canyons, nourish life, reshape landscapes.
So in the context of power, assuming formlessness
Means being adaptable,
willing to change your approach as needed.
avoiding rigidity.
It's about understanding that power is not static.
It's fluid.
It's dynamic.
It's always changing.
It's a reminder that the world is constantly changing.
And to truly wield power, we need to be able to adapt, to flow with the current,
To flow with the current.
and to find those creative solutions.
To navigate even the most challenging situations.
This deep dive into Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power has been quite a journey.
It has.
It's given us a glimpse into those timeless strategies of influence.
The psychology of persuasion.
The dynamics of power that play out in every aspect of human interaction.
We've explored everything from the importance of making a bold entrance to the dangers of isolation.
From the power of creating compelling spectacles to the strategic brilliance of thinking several steps ahead.
It's a lot to take in, but these laws offer valuable insights
They do.
into how the world really works.
Remember, these laws are simply tools.
Tools.
It's up to each of us to decide how we use them.
And to always consider the ethical implications of our choices.
Always.
We encourage you to use this knowledge wisely, to observe the world with a discerning eye.
And to always strive to wield your own influence.
In a way that aligns with your values.
Exactly.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating and sometimes unsettling world of power dynamics.
Until next time.
Stay curious and stay empowered.